Hey everybody, Bonehead for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is our series where we have a look at everything 3D printed for Blood Bowl. Whether it's teams, star players, big guys, stadiums, anything that we think is going to be useful for Blood Bowl that you can do with a 3D printer, we'll probably end up having a look at. Now, it is the first week of the month, which means it's the Patreon season, and the first team we're going to look at this week is another absolutely awesome series of models from Brutefun. You know what? Let's have a look. Okay, so for a while now, I've been saying that the thing Blood Bowl needs, the team that we really want, or that would go really well, is a squig team. And there is a squig team, there's a couple of different squig teams on Thumble, in the Thumble Secret Leagues. And Brutefun loves goblins and orcs and greenskins and trolls and big gribblies. So this month has delved into a goblin team. This is part one of a goblin team that is night goblin themed with squigs. So it can be a standard goblin team. It can be a night goblin team from the Thumble Secret League, and it can be a squig team from the Thumble Secret League. Now, this is technically part one, but there is enough there for you to run a standard goblin team. Next month, it's going to be another troll, another squig, and some, I don't even know what else is going to add, but I know it's going to be amazing. So let's have a quick look at the bits that make up this team. I'm going to flick through the pictures. So we're going to start at the top. Right, we've got a troll. Now, if you are familiar with Warhammer Age of Sigmar, this, I love the little squig underneath the mushroom cap. This is very reminiscent of the Dankhold Troggoth, which was released for the new Night Goblin for Age of Sigmar. You got the standard kind of stone trolls, you got the river trolls. Brutefun's had a look at those before and done a brilliant job. Do I have a troll? No, I don't have a troll. The Ripper model is just the best troll model out. And with the squig theme, with the Night Goblin cave theme, Brutefun went with this Dankhold Troggoth theme, which is a big, gnarly troll. You've got the Blood Bowl elements there, you've got the shoulder pads, you've got the van braces, you've got the codpiece, you've got some suspenders that are made of rope. Then you've got all of that cool mushroom stuff that comes on the top of a Dankhold Troggoth. It just fits really well with the theme of that kind of troll. Now, in addition to that, you've got a load of cool little details everywhere. So you've got the little squig, and you've got the cool hood hat that is, again, very reminiscent of the Blood Bowl 2 Underworld team. So their trolls had those cool hoods on. Actually, this kind of speaks to a bunch of different elements that I'm a huge fan of. Now, this was the last model that dropped as part of this release during the month, and he's done a brilliant job. Now, we've got the models here to look at, and if you watch the Stock Up Sunday show, you will have already seen them on the spinny wheel, but they are brilliant models. So we've got the troll there, and then the release comes with 4 line goblins and a netter that can be used as a standard night goblin. The night goblin netter, if you remember from old school Warhammer Fantasy battles, there were netter and clubbers. The goblins used to throw nets on stuff. The clubbers would maul them. So far, there is a goblin netter, which is a positional for the Secret League Night Goblin team. But for standard goblins, he works brilliantly as just a standard lineman with a nice goblin twist. I love these. I just love these night goblins. They're so much fun to paint. I started painting a few of them, and they were just, I don't know, I tried to explain to Brutefun, I was like, I've just been enjoying painting some of these models as the weeks have gone, and I'm looking forward to just carrying on with these, because they've got so much character. They're not they're detail heavy enough, but they're not monstrously covered in detail. They're not a massive challenge to paint, which is brilliant, and that just speaks to the sculpting and all the detail that goes into it. Yeah, see, he's got a peg leg, you've got the little jingle bells all over him. They're just brilliant. Now we've got the netter. This is awesome. I pre-supported this, and it was surprisingly easy, and I've painted at least one of them. Have I painted 2? I might have painted 2, but it came out really nice. And it's just a really cool model and a really cool sculpt. Now, like I said, it's for the Secret League team, but works perfectly well as a Night Goblin lineman. In fact, it's a perfect goblin to put on the line. Now, we've got hooligans or madcap mushroom addicts for the Night Goblin secret team. But realistically, you've got a hooligan here for your goblin team, which is just a almost naked goblin with mushrooms growing out of him, frothing at the mouth. He's there to be your dirty player, your disturbing presence piece for the team. So this is the first of the goblin positionals. Then the squigs happened. Okay, this is the chainsaw. It's not your traditional chainsaw, but it's awesome. So with the Night Goblin theme, with the squig theme, Brutefun has thought, right, what would a goblin do? And the answer has been, amazingly, strap a squig to a piece of wood and use it as a chomper to chainsaw your opponents. So that is a brilliant piece of work. I love that. It's a very clever design choice. And again, it's just a really, really cool model. You'll see when I show off the 3D print in a minute. It's just, oh man, it's just a lot of fun. This entire team is just a ton of fun. And every single one of the models is just a really interesting piece. Now, this is the Fanatic. Goblin Fanatics normally are a goblin with a chain and a ball on the end of it, or a cow, or something that they're spinning around. Flip it around here. We've got a squig who's actually spinning the goblin around, which is brilliant. We've got the bomber who's not throwing bombs. This guy is feeding potions to a squig and then throws the squig, which is very cool. Now he's got a massive backpack on full of squigs and stuff, and I think I've said this before, it looks kind of like the Majora's Mask salesman. He's just got that vibe of like, I have a massive backpack full of stuff, and he's just going to be chain throwing squigs, which is magic. So this is a squig. This is one of the squig models that is just, in fact, it's the only squig model that doesn't translate currently to the goblin team. Now, it is a big strength 4 piece. It's not as big as a troll. We'll have a look at the size comparison in a second, but it's about the size of a Black Orc. It's that kind of bigness to it, which doesn't fit into the standard goblin roster, so you don't necessarily need this model. However, from looking at it, from getting to paint it up, you do need this model. It means nothing for a goblin team straight off the bat, but there's no reason you can't use this as your Fanatic, as long as you make it, you know, very clear to your opponent. The difficulty is if you do that, it means you won't be using this as your Fanatic, and it just gets a bit sad. And then the positionals keep on coming. We've got a very cool hopper. So this is your pogo piece, because it is a squig hopper. He's bounding around, he's doing that jumping thing, and it's also going to make a pretty cool Madcap Migs if he ever comes back, which would be very cool. Anyway, so we've got that guy, and then this is the Doom Diver, which was, I think, one of the last positionals to land, and it is a very cool design. So basically, you've got a flying squig, and he's just dragging a goblin around, which works beautifully, because it means if you build the narrative of the troll doing the throw teammate with the goblin Doom Diver, actually he grabs the squig and he lobs the squig, and the squig just drags the goblin around with him, and it's like a massive paper plane, and I think it just works brilliantly. And then we got the squig, because it's a great model. So the team is made of a bunch of different pieces, and as you can see, you've got all the things you need to make a standard goblin team. There's only one troll at the moment, but with 2 different heads, if you just wanted to mirror it, it would be fine. Like, I've already looked at this. I've already looked at these trolls and thought, ooh, actually, if I downscale the goblins a bit to use them as snotlings, could I get a snotling team out of this? Because these trolls are brilliant. So I'm a massive fan of the trolls, massive fan of the line goblins, and just the squig positionals are brilliant as well. So it's a really interesting part 1, because while you've got all the pieces there to make a standard goblin team, you've kind of got some brilliant substitute pieces. You've got a great troll, you've got great goblin positionals, you've got a great bunch of goblins that you can add to a Skaven team to make yourself an underworld team. It's just a really great piece of sculpting, and next month is just going to expand on it even more, which is absolutely superb. Now, I was going to show off the STLs, but actually I figured we'd just show the prints instead, because the STLs are rendered beautifully by Brutefun, but the models we can actually play with and look at physically. So this is one of the 2 trolls. Now, the 2 trolls are exactly the same from a sculpting point of view, I think, with the exception of the cool hood hat. Now, that means a couple of things. One, if you've got a 3D printer, you can mirror them and you get 2 different trolls. They look very similar, sure, obviously the poses will be reversed, but that's going to be good enough if you need 2 trolls right now, instead of waiting until next month for Brutefun to sculpt a different one. What it really means is that you've got 1 troll, 2 troll, mirror it, then next month 2 more trolls, then you've got 4 trolls, which is technically more trolls than you can troll with, but I don't know. I think we can do better. We can do better than just 2 trolls. Anyway, let's start off with this model. I've just given it a simple coat of white paint. I didn't get a chance to start chucking on some contrast, but actually when I put this on the spinny plate for Stock Up Sunday, it was good enough to pick in a load of the detail. Forgive me if it's a bit bright, but I don't care because this model is so cool. Where's a little squig? There's a little squig underneath the hood hat. Right, he is a chunky boy. I think Brutefun actually scaled him down a little bit to stop him from being absolutely gigantic. And you know me, a big fan of big models, but actually I think this is probably the perfect size for Blood Bowl when it comes to big guys. I mean, Ripper is an absolute giant of a model, and it's beautiful. And the Croxagore is, again, a giant model. But this is sized beautifully. So, as you can kind of see, you've got all the cool details. You've got all those mushrooms. I haven't cleaned up the supports on this one quite as much as I probably should have. But, I mean, it's just supports, so it's not going to take too much. When it comes to the pre-supported versions on this, some of them are going to be mine. Some of them are going to be somebody else's. They'll all be good. And I like the way Brutefun kind of crowdsources some of the supports to just be as flexible as possible. It's such a cool model. Right, let's have a look at the hood hat very quickly, and then what we'll do is we will do some size comparisons. Such a cool model. I've used a little dungeon base there. Right, so let's grab you. So this is a nobility blitzer, strength 3. This is our cave troll, strength 5, and he is a big old boy. He's on a 40mm base here, and from an overhead point of view, actually he stays within his space quite nicely. I've put him off center ever so slightly because of the way this base is, but from a size point of view, he's big. He is big enough to be your big guy, and that is just brilliant. And that means that when you've got 2 of them on the pitch, they just look very, very, very cool. So I am personally very excited for next month when there are more trolls, but quite frankly right now we've got 2 great trolls there, and you know, you can upscale it, you can downscale it a little bit, but I don't think you need to. So let's have a look at some of the linemen to begin with. These guys I've printed on my standard settings, and I've given various coats of contrast to these models. Let's see if I can find the focus sweet spot. Here we go. So this guy I've given a coat of some kind of black contrast, and then started picking out the skin details. And as you can see, it's already starting to look really, really, really cool. You can see the details there, even with just like a really simple coat of contrast. I've not bothered with too much magic, just because I don't know, I just wanted to see them with a bit of color on to get a better image, a better kind of idea of what they're like. So that's one guy. We got another guy here. He's the one with the peg leg, so this is another lineman. And again, you can see all those mushrooms and stuff, which means that actually you're going to be able to chuck on some contrast, chuck on some shade, and then pick out certain elements and certain details, which makes it, I don't know, it makes it a real pleasure to paint, which is, I don't know, something I've been looking for a while. Like, we see a lot of great models, but there's none of them that really call to me to be like, I want to paint this straight away. Like, I want to sit down and watch Mandalorian and paint some goblins and take time out from life. Actually, that's what I did with some of these guys. So we've got some great little goblins, and I have got one that I painted with yellow contrast speed paints and did the funky thing with the base. This is the netter. So the netter will work perfectly for a goblin lineman in a standard goblin, like just a standard normal goblin team. If you are running the Secret League team for night goblins, then he will do a great job of being a netter, one of the positionals, and you can mirror it so that you've got 2. I think it's a 0-2 positional. We're definitely going to have to bring back Special Team Sunday in the summer to kind of start looking at that. So 1 coat of orange on this guy, picked out the details that I wanted, then I put some Seraphim Sepia on there and stuck him on a base. I've been working on some bases at the moment, and I thought that'd be quite a funky way of doing it, and certainly a nice way to kind of get a different coverage than normal. And I also used my classic brown contrast. However, he is caught on cables on my desk because I am a uncouth vagabond. Here we go. Brown. Again, you can pick out the details really nicely. You can see all of the fun stuff that's going on there. And I have this kind of theory that you start off with 1 color on your model, and actually you can add bits and pick out elements that you want, which is kind of what I've done with this guy. And even though it is not a great paint job, it took very little time. So actually, to go from that in not a lot of time is a massive testament to these sculpts. Anyway, let's have a look at size comparisons. So we'll begin with strength 3. We'll get that blitzer back on the go, and you can see that the goblin is of an appropriately goblin-y size. That's what we want, that's what we're looking for, and I actually do have a goblin model as well. We've got Grot Brady, who's starting to be our little strength 2 comparison piece, and it is perfect. I have been over the moon with the scaling of this team. In fact, we've had some good Patreons recently, and the models are absolutely perfect. Height wise, I think the goblin might have a little bit on Grot Brady, but they work perfectly for Blood Bowl, and they size really nicely to the strength 3 pieces. So if you've got you've got the goblin trying to stand tall to scare the squigs off, and you've got Grot Brady doing Grot Brady things there as well, which works really, really nicely. So those are your linemen. Let's bring in the hooligan, which is a fun model. Now, I've started painting this guy, but I haven't got as far as I would have liked. So I may have swallowed up some of the details by painting thick green paint as the skin, but you get the gist, and you get the gist of how easy this is going to paint up. You've got a couple of your base colors there, and you can just pick out some of the details. And I think this team is one of my favorites that we've seen recently, because it's got a really nice mixture of some stuff, but not too much. It's brilliant. It means you kind of hit that contrast sweet spot. If you're one of those happy slapping paint style people as well, it's going to be a really nice way to do it. So again, say size wise, a little bit bigger than a black orc goblin, which is fine as well. All right, so those are the linemen and the first of the positionals. Let's bring the bomber, then we'll do the chainsaw, then we'll do the fanatic, then we'll do the hopper, and then we'll do the diver. Okay, so first things first, we've got the bomber. Now, bombers, obviously, very important in Blood Bowl. The goblin bomber, probably the worst of the lot, but the sculpt, potentially the best of the lot. And the really good thing about this team is because there's so heavy on the night goblin theme, you've got the night goblin hoods, you've got the squigs there, it's going to be a very different goblin bomber to the Brutefun Star Goblin. The Brutefun Star Bomber is perfect, right? It does a great job of being Bomber Dribble Snot. This guy is clearly something else, which is magic. And again, I've used the sewer brown contrast over there just to pick out the detail. And there's quite a lot. So we've got this cage, and you've got little bits of squig poking out, but not too much detail. And you can see that actually, just with a bit of contrast, he's done a really good job of picking that out. So with hardly any effort at all, you can see what it is, and you can kind of pick out where you want to add the color. So the bomber is good to go. Size comparison, again, Grot Brady comes in, and the bomber is a little bit bigger than Grot Brady, which is where we want to be with that. Then it is chainsaw time. Or honestly, each one of these sculpts is brilliant. This is my chainsaw. There are many like it, but this one is mine, said the goblin. And again, I've started adding some color to this guy, so you can kind of see that he is a squig on a bit of wood being used as a chainsaw with a cool different mask as well. I'm assuming that's just to kind of protect his face from all of the incoming bloodshed, which is just brilliant. Like, I really love this as a design aesthetic. It is very different, right? It is unusual, but it is perfect for this team, and it just gives a really goblin alternative. So huge fan of that. And again, size wise, does a really nice job. So that is the chainsaw. Then we move on to the first of the squigs, the full-on squig. So this is the fanatic, and you've got this goblin who is just being dragged around by a big old spiky chain and a big old squig, and it is just such a cool and unique design. It just works so nicely. Now, I did mention that you can also use this squig as your fanatic if you wanted to kind of just use this model on your team without going full squig team. And actually, I think they both work nicely, and they both work brilliantly. They're very, like, in both of them are intimidating models. This squig's a little bit bigger. This one does have the goblin element to it. So I like that you kind of got two different choices just for the vanilla goblin team. And I think that's just a really nice bit of extra. But I mean, another really big call out here is the contact point between the goblin and the squig. This is a one-piece sculpt, and there's plenty of like adjoining material underneath that piece there. I'm not sure if we can quite see it on the camera there, but there's a couple of extra joining pieces, which just means that it's actually very resilient, which if you guys have played with some fancy finicky models before, you will probably massively appreciate, but not as much as this hopper. Again, nice chunky legs there. Resin can be a bit brittle if dropped, definitely going to be a bit of a risk point here, but worth it and pretty tough and resilient there as well. So this is your Hopper Knight, and I love that Brutefun's gone with kind of like a nice face mask piece that kind of matches the Boingrot Hopper lads, or whatever they're called in Age of Sigmar. You just look at this guy. And if you've had any interactions with the Warhammer world, you know that he is a squig hopper. You would have probably seen models like it, but we've got some big old squig teeth, we've got excellent posing, and it is just a very cool model. Now this one we're going to show the size of, because Goblin-wise, he's sensible. When it comes to his actual on-pitch size, he is about the same height as a Strength 3 model. So it makes sense. The Pogo Goblin, which I tidied a lot of this, which means my models are all like over there. The Pogo Goblin is taller. He's on a pogo stick. So pogo sticks are tall, so it makes sense. But actually, if you've got him on pitch, you know what he's like. You know what he's about. You know what he's doing. He's your pogo. He's the one who's going to take that 3+ unrerollable without a team reroll dice to absolute glory. And then I think the last model we have to show off is the Bat Squig Doom Diver. And I really like this one. I liked it so much that it was the first one I properly painted with a different paint scheme. And I think you can see why. It is a completely nonsensical situation, and I absolutely love it. So the Goblin here, you've got the Bat Squig, really nice contact point between the Squig and the Goblin. He's being dragged around by the collar of his jersey or a little scarf or something, or maybe his hood. And it's just so cool. I really like it. I've painted this with yellow, and then a bit of red, and then a bit of goblin skin, and then a bit of seraphim sepia. So really, really, really lazy boy painting. But it does a really good job of picking out a lot of the details on the model. You've got some mushrooms, you've got his cool goggles, you've got all the squig detail, and you've got his fabric being pulled around. And it is just a really fun take on a diver. And I just love this team. I love it in gribbly dark grey. I love it in bright flipping yellow. It's just such a cool team. I really like these models. Right, I'm sorry. I know I've kind of just gushed about these, but it's been a bad month. Like, real life is just rubbish sometimes, right? And being able to find some models that actually just are fun and easy to paint, and they've got character, and you don't care how they're going to do on the pitch, because when you're making stuff that it's just joyful. It's just joyful, toothy destruction. And it's just a massive reason why I love Blood Bowl, and a massive reason why I love the sculpts that are coming out, especially from Brutefun, is because, you know, you go grimdark and brown, you paint layers and cool teeth, you just chuck on yellow and maybe some shade, and the team just looks awesome. And I don't know, I mean, we've had some great Goblin teams on the channel, but this is by far and large the best, and it just smacks of Night Goblins. It's got squigs, and you can actually use it for the Night Goblin team on Fumble, or the Squig team on Fumble, which means naturally we are going to have to get those teams to the pitch. So once we've finished with Dungeon Bowl, we'll probably see if we can sneak in a few secret league teams on the pitch, and the Squig team is going to be definitely one of them on there. Anyway, this is available on Brutefun's Patreon right now for this month. If you don't have a 3D printer, this is all available on the Bonehead Podcast shop, and I think we've aptly demonstrated how lovely these models are. They just make me so happy. It's so good. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up and go and paint these and contemplate my existence. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy squigging. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.